Jeffrey Epstein's victims have long said they believe they were being filmed by the sex offender. And this footage from a spycam style camera inside Epstein's Palm Beach house appears to show just that. The footage has been obtained for the first time by Channel 4 News. Because the quality is so grainy, during our investigation we analysed it frame by frame, and we've slowed it down here so that you can see what's happening. A man, likely Epstein himself, at one point looks towards the hidden device. Images of what seems to be his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as what appears to be several women or girls. So how do we know what this is and where it comes from? Epstein's Palm Beach property was raided by law enforcement in 2005, where police filmed this footage. Pause it here. You can see his office in the corner of the ground floor living area. This is the exact same office captured in the spycam footage. We can match up some features like the stairway pattern in the shelves, the two small bookshelves above a larger middle shelf, a framed painting, behind an oversized lampshade, and an ornamental plate on the top middle shelf. So where is this spycam in the office? Well, we believe it's here. And in the footage of the 2005 police raid, we can see that there is what looks like a wide clock positioned on a low side table facing the desk. In a 2006 affidavit from Palm Beach detective Joseph Recarey, the man who led investigations into Epstein during the 2000s, he said that there were two covert cameras hidden within clocks, one in the garage and another in the library area. He adds that a computer was located which was believed to contain the images from the cameras, and that all of these images appeared to come from the one positioned behind Epstein's desk. And then in a 2010 deposition, Detective Recarey said that despite the lighting being poor and not being 100%, he thought that it was Mr. Epstein in the videos, adding, "You know, I can say the female did appear to be redacted word. One of the assistants appeared to be redacted word. You know, that kind of thing." Now, one police report states that Epstein bought and installed a hidden clock camera himself. But in this deposition, the police suggest that they themselves may have actually helped Epstein install it following a 2003 burglary at his home. The newly uncovered spycam footage, part of millions of documents released in the Epstein files, appears to show a moment of intimate contact at Epstein's desk involving an unidentified woman or girl. That's why we can't play it in full. Epstein's victims repeatedly said they believed they had been filmed. Elsewhere in the footage, a man we believe to be Epstein emerges in a bathrobe. And this is all just from one spy camera in the 2000s. Epstein had a vast, elaborate and secretive surveillance system across his properties. We know from other police reports that Epstein had CCTV installed in Palm Beach, but the computer equipment associated with those cameras was removed before police searched the home. And over a decade after his 2008 conviction, these images from his New York townhouse show cameras inside the property, and a room with monitors that were linked to those cameras. That room was behind a door that read 24-hour video surveillance. Yet this footage from Palm Beach, identified by Channel 4 News, remains the only covert surveillance footage the public has seen so far.
Well, back to our main news now. The US Attorney General Pam Bondi has faced angry scenes in Congress as she was questioned over her handling of the Epstein files and urged to apologise to survivors. Let's go to our US editor, Anushka Astana.
You know, I was sitting in that room when the hearing started, listening to Pam Bondi, and the atmosphere in there was incredibly charged. It was divided politically, as it so often is here. In the US, the Republicans on one side being nice to the Attorney General, the Democrats really quite furious. They were getting people to hold up examples of redactions outside of the Epstein files. They were arguing that the files were incomplete, that too many victims had been revealed, and that too many men's names had still not been put out there. Pam Bondi responded pretty testily on all of it. Behind her were a line of survivors, and actually two of them I saw last night. I sat down with them. I spoke to them. They said they are happy that these files are getting out there, but they are not satisfied. It is not enough. They want co-conspirators' name. They were furious to hear Ghislaine Maxwell, a close confidant of Jeffrey Epstein's, say that she was pleading the fifth remaining silent on Monday and would only speak if President Trump pardoned her. At one point, a senior Democrat raised the issue of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and he basically said he thought it was despicable that the Department of Justice had sought to shut down any investigation into him. Pam Bondi's response to that was, you had this information when Democrats were in power.
Right, and the questions are building over Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, the questions are building back in the UK as well. We've heard today that Thames Valley Police are leading an ongoing assessment into whether there could be criminal acts that are revealed as a result of the Epstein files. They say they have spoken to special Crown prosecutors at the CPS. They say that they are not going to comment now, but they are looking about whether a full investigation is required, whether there are criminal offences. And also we've had this intervention that you've mentioned by the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, really quite a powerful intervention in an article in the New Statesman. He calls this the biggest political scandal in modern British history. He says there are things that link this to Britain that we're not looking at, including the use of airports in the UK. He talked about the Lolita Express, which transported survivors around. He says women mentioned in the Epstein files have not been talked to by British investigators, and that is what survivors have said to me as well. Gordon Brown said, I've been told privately that the investigations related to the former Prince Andrew did not properly check vital evidence of flights. I have asked police to look at that. That is enough of a reason for them to speak to Andrew. And meanwhile, survivors keep coming here. They keep coming to Capitol Hill, and their fight goes on.
So good to see you.
Epstein's survivors have been fighting for justice again and again, and still today. Some, like Lara Bloom McGee, were too terrified to talk.
This is not protection. This is betrayal.
But she has found her voice.
I stand here for every little boy and girl that is afraid to speak up after the unthinkable.
And is now taking this battle through these corridors of power into the heart of Congress. Sitting with Lisa Phillips, the survivor who inspired Lara to speak.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty
But today, they wanted to lay eyes on US Attorney General Pam Bondi, who acknowledged the survivors.
I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster.
But then this.
To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. Please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice.
It is incredibly tense inside there, angry even. Pam Bondi didn't turn to the survivors, perhaps because she knows they are not yet satisfied with this process. I sat down with Lisa and Lara, both abused by Epstein for years as they prepared for the hearing. How are you coping with all of this?
It's not easy, I'll tell you that. I think since the last files were dumped on that Friday, my nervous system has not been the same.
Like, there's only so much that we should take in for our mental health.
You're struggling with your mental health?
It's a lot.
If you could directly ask Pam Bondi some questions, what do you want to see from her?
How long do we have to wait for justice to be served?
That's a good question.
Inside Congress, Bondi was accused of failing to publish all the files, of redacting too many of Epstein's male friends, while accidentally revealing too many female victims. But she was having none of it.
This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, and Donald Trump signed that law. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history.
Bondi had clearly come ready for the fight.
I'm going to answer the question. If they could maintain their composure, this isn't a circus, this is a hearing. I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me
I did tell you, because we saw what you did in the Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Lisa and Lara came away feeling they still did not have answers. They had told me they wanted co-conspirators named, a fuller investigation saying no one from the Department of Justice had spoken to them. Do you think it was possible to have been in Epstein's orbit, to have been at his dinner parties, to have been one of his close friends, and to not have known what was going on?
That's a hard one.
If it was someone that was around quite a bit, they absolutely knew what was going on. If you were just, I met him one time, I was invited to a dinner party, no. But it didn't take too long.
No, because he wore his perversions very outward.
They said Epstein regularly talked about his powerful friends, including the one in the British royal family.
After an incident that happened, I had asked him about Prince Andrew. He made a reference that this was the one person that had more of a perversion or a love for young girls than he did.
About Prince Andrew?
Yeah.
And do you think he was talking about underage girls?
I don't know that. He was just saying, because like I said, he was talking about his perversion.
Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has always denied wrongdoing. The survivors of Jeffrey Epstein think there is so much more to come, but this fight that they have been mounting for years now has clear momentum, forcing revelation after revelation that never failed to shock. Now, they want people held accountable.
Well, earlier I spoke to Melanie Stansbury, a Democratic congresswoman from New Mexico, who's a member of the House Oversight Committee, which is investigating the Epstein files. And I asked her if she could give us a sense of what it reveals that the Department of Justice have not yet revealed.
They are clearly protecting world leaders who are implicated in Jeffrey Epstein circles. They are clearly protecting the president himself. We saw that in multiple files. They're clearly protecting their friends and allies. We know that from statements the president has made, but it's very clear when you look at the files themselves, and they unmasked victims. And it's hard to know if they did that on purpose, but it appears to be that they are trying to intimidate the victims back into silence. It's shocking. The material is shocking.
So how can you tell that there is a cover-up, in your terms, when it comes to Trump and other world leaders?
Well, for example, one of the documents that I was looking at was an email wherein an individual was having an email conversation with Jeffrey Epstein about a young woman from Russia. And Epstein emails his friend and says, we think she's trying to blackmail us. And in the unredacted file, the individual is a person who was working in the Kremlin at the time. And there is absolutely no reason why DOJ should have blacked out that person's identity. It is very clear in the law that they should not have done that. But somebody at Department of Justice made the decision to shield that individual. And you can see thousands of instances of that when you look at the unredacted files.
Oh, and what about Trump himself? I get there's an individual in the Kremlin, but what makes you say world leaders are being protected?
Donald Trump himself is also being shielded in these files as well. We posted to my own social media a document that is widely available. It's on the DOJ's website. It's a slideshow that the FBI did. Part of what I wanted to do was to validate that that was indeed an FBI work product. And I looked at the unredacted files inside the system, and it was generated through FBI emails and investigations and tip sheets. And Donald Trump is the first name. He was actually accused as part of this investigation. He was investigated by the FBI for sex crimes in the Jeffrey Epstein case, and it's all there in the files.
I mean, what we haven't seen yet in what's been released is conclusive proof of a network of world leaders and the global elite involved in a conspiracy to abuse women. Mm-hmm. Are you saying you've now seen that?
You don't even have to see the files unredacted to know that, because of the vast network and investigations that are revealed even in the redacted versions of these files. And that's why you see, including in the UK and, 10 other countries, they've opened investigations that not only into their own leaders and the ways in which leaders were communicating with Epstein, they were participating in his crimes, but also because young women and girls were being trafficked.
Did you see anything about the former Prince Andrew?
Yes. He is absolutely named as a prominent person in the files.
Are there other names that we are not focusing on that we need to be?
There may be hundreds of people who were a part of Jeffrey Epstein's larger network of global friends, leaders that he was communicating with, that he invited to parties, that abused women, that he, farmed women out to. You have to understand, many of these young women were 14, 15, 16 when this was happening, and they knew somebody was important, but they may not have known exactly who they were. The Department of Justice is legally required to release those names. And so as members of Congress who are able to see the redacted files, we're going to continue to unmask individuals who should not be protected in the files. And that is one of our demands, is that they need to release all of the names and all of the files in the format that the law requires.
Congresswoman, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.